We cover the latest topics and trends making waves across the sport and chat with our industry's most prominent leaders so your golf business stays one step ahead. Welcome to Golf Business Live, powered by Club Caddie. Here's NGCOA CEO Jay Karen, and owner of Augusta Ranch Golf Club and secretary of the PGA of America, Don Rea.
Hey, Don Rea. Welcome, everybody, to Golf Business Live, August 2022, sponsored by our friends at Club Caddie. Don, I'm coming to you live from the NGCOA Mobile Command Center, also known as my frog in the South, which is the family room over garage. I'm in day 4 of 5 of COVID quarantine. I've got COVID the second time, the bout is much better than the first time. I'm telling you, because I've had 4 shots, and so I think that helps with the duration and the efficacy of the virus with me. So thank God I'm doing okay. But you'll be glad to know that there's a KN95 filter on my iPad here. So you will not be receiving anything. But how are you doing, Don?
I'm COVID free, Jay. I'm COVID free. I had COVID early. Maybe the more shots you get, the more you get it. I'm not sure, but everybody I know who's had a boatload of shots is getting it again. So I don't need to be honest with you. Still, I just got back from Cog Hill and, Chicago airport, crazy. The trains there and, nobody's wearing a mask. So I'm sure other people are going to get it. But yeah, I've heard the same thing. It's not as bad the second or third time around, but no, things are going great. I'll give you my little update now, if you don't mind. I think really exciting. What really opens my eyes, Jay, is just being secretary of the PGA of America and this opportunity to travel a little bit, go to our major championships, go to our little major championships, go to our section meetings. I really do. I really get a glimpse into what everybody's dealing with. One thing that I thought was really fascinating. The officers of the PGA, we go to the British Open, and I'd never been there before. I'd never been to Scotland. The Scottish people are amazingly friendly. I'm just blown away by how nice they were. But we actually have a PGA global meeting there. The PGAs of the world were there. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I mean, PGA South Africa, Australia, Canada, GBNI, PGA Europe, which is a collection of smaller PGAs. So just PGA professionals. And what is everybody dealing with in the world right now as far as it comes to the PGAs of the world? And it is getting PGA golf professionals, recruitment, retention, work-life balance, compensation, all of those things. That's what's happening. The growth of this game, who knew that we'd be talking like this, pre-COVID? But now everybody wants to play, and we got to get golf professionals out from behind the counter and getting them teaching. Not one-on-one, $1 a minute, but actually in group sessions, doing player assessments, kind of the stuff one of our guests, Will Robbins, talked about. And it's fascinating to me that you think sometimes you're this isolated here in the United States, but whether it's COVID or it's the growth of the game, everybody's dealing with it. And so we got to share collective good best practices and talk about that. And I really enjoyed the 2 hours I spent. Never had that opportunity before to spend with the PGA, the global PGAs, but to find out we're all in the same boat. And we're all just trying to get a lot of people to play more golf. It just really made me feel good that a lot of things we're doing in the States, we're on the right page. We're actually ahead of some of the other PGAs, but the other PGAs are ahead of us in other areas. So encouraging, I guess, and that we're all dealing with the same thing. Discouraging that
that's good.
It's an epidemic when it comes to golf professionals and being able to teach the game of golf.
From your perch, you certainly get to see a lot. And, we're going to have on the show here in about 10 or 15 minutes, someone else who sits on a high perch in this industry for a long time, Dr. Joe Beditz, who's the CEO of the National Golf Foundation. And we're going to have some questions for him on some research recently, but also just he's had a long, career in this industry. And he's seen a lot. And so when you sit at the seats that we get to see 4 corners of the industry. So we're going to ask him about different corners of the industry that he's seeing these days. So we look forward to bringing Joe on here in a little bit. So, all right, are you at your course in Mesa at all these days? And if so, talk to us about what we're seeing in 2022. I mean, we're starting to see the mid-year reports and how we're doing on rounds and all these things. And people are asking me in interviews about how the industry is doing. I mean, you are one course operator, and I would put you on the progressive side of the bell curve. So how are you doing halfway through 2022?
Well, I think you better be on that side of the bell curve, because the other side of the bell curve is not very good. I really am interested to talk to Dr. Joe today, because some of my gut instincts, I wonder if they're accurate or not. I mean, I do think we're getting paid some of the dividends, to your point, of kind of being a forward-looking golf facility and understanding a long time ago. This is all about relationship, and it's a hospitality business, which you've been preaching for a long time. But are you actually doing that? Are you empowering your people to build relationships? Are you getting the golf professionals out from behind the counter? Are you paying them hourly now instead of salary? Because nobody's digging salary these days. They want to know that they're going to get paid for their time, and because they all figure out their hourly rate when they're on salary, right? But I think I'm excited about what we're doing with Top Tracer. I've had a lot of our listeners reach out to me and ask me how we're doing and how are the things going there. I would tell you it's a process. I think Top Tracer has been amazing through this process, but every city, every county is going to be different because of permitting. They've lined up some really good vendors that you can deal with, but at the end of the day, depending on where you live, some of those inspections that you're going to get, the permitting is going to be difficult. But we're excited about it. It has generated a lot of excitement here with our customers, because you know what I've heard is a lot of our golfers that are playing, I can't wait to bring my family when you guys have Top Tracer. Music to my ears, Jay. It's like we've always known that golfers now have to get the golfers of the future. This is how it works. You tell somebody else. We do it with restaurants all the time. We can do this with this great game that we love. It's like, you have to come play golf. And so I think what we've done is lowered or eliminated this barrier of entry. So now I can have a golfer say, why don't you bring your friends and family to Augusta Ranch when Top Tracer opens? So we finally got the general contractor.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I want to hear,
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about installing Top Tracer, the things that you have to go through. This is an educational opportunity for the industry here, going into this.
Well, I'd say, if you love being an entrepreneur, then you must love being a golf course owner, because you better be thinking on your feet at all times, because there's no book for these things. I mean, one of the first pushbacks we got, we designed this great with the help of Cover the Tees and Matt Towell and his team. We designed the overhang, right? These bays that we're going to build. Well, it was over 5,000 square feet because we're doing 21 bays. Well, it turns out in the city of Mesa, anything over 5,000 square feet needs a sprinkler system on it for fires. Now, this thing has no walls. I mean, it's the safest place in a metal building, I would hope, would be underneath of it in a fire, but yet they want us to get a sprinkler system. But we got past that and divided the building into two. But what I would say is this: I think the most important thing, I think a lot of owners, we kind of do figure we're trying to save money, right, Jay? I mean, even though we got a little bit more of it now than we've had, we're always trying to save money. And general contractors are expensive. They want a percentage of the job, 10 to 15, maybe 20%, maybe 30% of the job. And when you're about to drop 400,000 like we are, maybe 5, that's a big check you're writing to a GC. And so I think an owner says, hey, I could put that hat on. I wear different hats all the time. And they're going to try to do this project without a GC. My biggest advice right now is I highly recommend you don't do that. The first thing you want to do is you're going to be working Top Tracer. I think you're going to do a great job. I don't know what TrackMan's doing. I know they're actually getting into the space really hard now. But I would say that I would get a general contractor, somebody you've worked for other projects as your facility, get them on board right now. Tell them what you're thinking about doing. Have them in the initial meetings of Top Tracer. They're going to open your eyes to things you should be doing. We're having to kind of reverse engineering some things right now, because our general contractor's like, I don't think that's going to work. You might want to do this. And so, it's funny. I tell people all the time, don't fix your own golf swing. Yet I was trying to build my own Top Tracer. So now I'm glad I have a general contractor, an expert in the business, that's going to save me from myself. So do that first.
That's what we're all about, sharing these ideas, the pitfalls and everything. That's what NGCOA has been doing forever now. So that's
Amen.
There. You just saved someone, you probably shaved 2 years off someone's life just by, sharing that tidbit to make sure you use a general contractor. Just a reminder to everybody watching, whether it's in Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, make sure that you log your comments or questions in there. We'll get to some of those. We already see some of them loading up already for Dr. Beditz. We're going to get to those. We anticipate some good questions. A little bit of house information about NGCOA. We just capped off our multi-course owner and resort operator retreat last week here in Charleston. It was our first home game, Don, since we've been headquartered in Charleston for 32 years. And so it was great welcoming everybody to Charleston. We had over 1,700 golf courses represented by the executives there. And we had sessions on leadership and the economy, workplace. We had the second MCOR caucus where we crowdsource issues in the room and get people talking. And we closed it out with a great Q&A with the CEO of the USGA, Mike Wan. So we had a really, robust discussion about what's happening in the game of golf. So that was really great. And, for those of you that missed the news last month, we launched and published the Golf Business Pulse Report, which is an evolution of what we did last year. We published 3 trend reports last year. It was a trend report on marketing, a trend report on operations, and a trend report on agronomics. We kind of aggregated those 3 into a new report called the Golf Business Pulse Report. And we used the help of John Last at Sports and Leisure Research Group to help do some research. And it's a really, really good in-depth study on what's on the minds of golf course owners and operators. Members, I encourage you to download it and read it. For non-members, there's a small fee, but go to ngcoa.org to check it out. It's going to produce a lot of content over the next year for us to be talking about, some of which I'll surface for Dr. Beditz here in a few minutes, because I know he's seeing all these same issues that we are. And we all have, our educated opinions on what to do about some of these interesting challenges and so forth. Did you get a chance to read the Pulse Report, Don?
Absolutely. And I would encourage anybody, you don't have to be an owner or operator to want this Pulse Report. You could be an assistant golf professional who aspires to own a golf course someday. Why not edify yourself and maybe even get a raise because you start telling the GM or maybe your head pro, hey, have you read this? It doesn't cost that much. And at the end of the day, and once again, some guys are, well, I don't have the money. You need the money for this. Yeah, I love it. I applaud you. I'm really impressed by what you guys put together.
Oh, thank you. Thanks to the USGA, our friends there, for sponsoring the report as well. The USGA has really leaned into the operation side of the business because they understand that the game is only going to be sustainable if the golf courses, the fields of play, are sustainable. So they've really been leaning into helping the industry in that side. So we're pleased to be working with them. All right, before we bring Dr. Beditz on, I want to hear about your experience at Cog Hill and the Junior PGA Championship. What was it like? What did you see there? And Cog Hill, as you know, is a storied public golf course. I mean, the Jemsick family, they were founders of NGCOA. So talk to us about what you saw outside Chicago this week.
Yeah, I've known Catherine for a long time and never got to see her facility. Frank was there. It was good to see him. I've known him for a long time. But to actually see 4 golf courses, the top tracer bays they have there, they buy 100,000 range balls a year. They had 4.5 million balls hit in their driving range in the top tracer. It's making 7 digits. I mean, this is a big deal. And they've really done what I'm trying to do, which is if you're going to go bays to fairways, it might as well be your bays and your fairways. And so the operation they did, I will tell you this is what I'm most impressed about, is that there was a rain delay. There was lightning. I mean, when we have a PGA championship, we use the same weather team that we use for the Ryder Cup and the PGA championship. So this is no go outside. Oh, it's starting to rain. Pull the kids off. We know when the high pressure systems are coming. We know when the threat of lightning is. So there's no doubt. I heard some of the parents kind of mumbling, as we were moving the kids because we had a serious thunderstorm, lightning, electricity in the air coming. And so we pulled all 300 athletes off of the golf course. And it was a 2.5-hour rain delay. Well, where do they end up? We all know as golf course owners, they all end up in your restaurant. And your food and beverage staff is just, how do you handle 300 people? Yeah, I got a table of 300. What are you going to do there? Their staff, so impressed of what they did. Troy, their general manager, Catherine, and certainly just the entire staff just met the challenge of all these kids being there. So I guess I was most impressed with, I've heard it's storied, no doubt about it, but it's also just, they're not trying to outdo everybody. It's a really good golf course with really good service. It's like, I guess the basics, when the bones are good, the house is good. I would say the bones at Cog Hill are good. I mean, it doesn't, I guess you see some of those new facilities and they're trying to outdo each other in certain things. Cog Hill has got new paint on it and it looks great, but at the end of the day, it's just 4 golf courses. And by the way, 300 juniors playing on the 2 courses, more open for golf on the other 2, 600 golf carts they have out there, just making it happen. And then throw in a 2.5-hour rain delay for everybody at the facility. I guess I've always heard about how they host major championships. I would say that they host the regular golfer every day. to a level that there's no wonder in my mind that why they're successful is because the bones are good.
And why we have an award named after them. I mean,
Amen.
You only achieve that if you've done good work. So, well, thanks for that recap. All right, so why don't we do this? We're about to bring on a friend of mine, someone who's been in this industry a few years. He's one of the thought leaders in the golf industry. He's the CEO of the National Golf Foundation. We've got Joe Beditz. Joe, let's bring Joe on, Taylor. Yes, smart move. Yes. Let's make sure he's unmuted. He's on. Maybe that's a mistake, is to unmute Dr. Beditz. Oh, there he is. Hey, Joe.
You just can't see me laughing, see me smiling.
I can see you crying.
Actually, congratulations on getting the virus again. I've had it once. I've had all the shots. Know that the only way to get immunity from BA5 is by getting it right now. Mm-hmm. None of the shots have anything to do with it. They may come out with them later, but right now you're the only guy who has the antibodies, only you and the other people who've had it. So you should feel good about that, that you've got it, that it's mild, you're doing the right thing. So.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad it's a short duration because, man, tell you, last year, Joe, it put me in the hospital for a night. I was just healthy as a horse. So I'm glad this duration is. I'm feeling good 4 days into this, so it's a lot better. But thank you for that. So all right, the National Golf Foundation has been around since 1936, providing business insights and consulting services to so many entities in the industry. And Joe, you joined the NGF 38 years ago in 1984 as the director of research. And just on that note, I'm going to surface the very first question that we've got from YouTube right here from our friend JJ Keegan. What is the succession plan for NGF leadership when Joe Beditz retires after a stellar and respected career? Oh, I had to lead with that one.
JJ, have you not been contacted by the search committee yet?
Excellent. Oh, good answer. All right, we're going to circle back to the very end of the conversation, but I had to put that out there. That was really fun. All right, so Joe, talk to me about the modern day NGF. I've seen a real renaissance the last couple of years, especially during the COVID, post-COVID, of what your staff is doing and how you're presenting the organization. Talk to us a little bit about the timeline of NGF as you've seen it, what you guys are doing today.
Well, we start by saying that we were caught a little flat-footed by the pandemic, like everybody else in golf. We have a very robust and still do proprietary private research business and a marketing business. And much of the research that we do or did back then was very macro, and it was available to members only, and it wasn't real visible. It was like NGF was like the tip of the iceberg. So when the pandemic hit, all of the projects that we had going for major companies throughout the industry, they all hit pause or stop. And so I had a whole team of people in the research department that basically had no work. So the question was, do we consider a temporary, hiatus on the labor, or what? What do you do with them? Don, you faced the same thing. Jay, so did you. We decided right then to retool, and you started noticing us then tracking golf courses. I had everybody on the staff, literally the entire staff, calling golf courses every day to see if they were open and how they were functioning. And as it began to reopen, we tracked that reopening through May, through June, etc. Reporting once a week, sometimes twice a week on a weekend, on the latest information on the recovery of golf and the recovery of the U.S. economy. Afterwards, we started getting so much traction and so many people writing us saying, this is fantastic. We couldn't live without this. So I had, kind of an epiphany at that point saying, this is what we should be doing more of. So we started 2 years ago, what we now call Fortnight, which is every 2 weeks we come out. You saw the one yesterday about rounds played. You made reference to it a little bit earlier, our media report. So every 2 weeks, for sure, you're going to see an update. Would be interesting to most people in the business. We retooled over a whole year our website. Don, like you, with your experience with putting in Top Tracer, I've done a couple of websites for NGF now, but long enough that I've seen them like 3 times actually. Matter of fact, I was here before there were websites, Don. That's how long I've been here. And I can tell you, whatever the experts tell you in terms of time and money, double it, and you're going to be within a fraction of correct on that. But anyway, we're very happy. If you haven't seen, some of your listeners haven't seen ngf.org, go on in there. It's a wealth of information. The guys are working on it. The team is working on it, every day to keep it fresh and to give people a reason to come back. Our previous website was a brochure. It was a nice looking brochure, but once you saw it, there was no reason to come back. The website today, we stole directly. We did a little R&D, which a friend of mine from the tennis industry said, what did he say? R&D stood for rip off and duplicate. And we looked at 538, that political website, and you'll notice some dramatic similarities between the layout of that and our website. But anyway, we're really happy with it. The feedback is amazing. We send out fortnight to, I think it's like about 60,000 people working in the business. Most of them at golf courses, actually, but about 15 or 20,000 don't work at golf courses. Our open rate's like 50%. So obviously there's an appetite for this. It's great. So that's kind of where we are today, and kind of thinking what's next, relative to our content, relative to what we're working on. We can.
Are you still publishing the same kind of the staple reports that the NGF's been known for? Everything from the course statistics and what players and the sentiment about golf. All of it. Are you still producing those seminal reports? Absolutely. We're just not delivering everything in. We think the days of people wanting to read a 35, 45-page report are kind of gone. Our fortnight, I demand that it's 2 minutes or less on a read, that it's 500 words or less, and it has at least one graphic, and that it's a data visualization, and it's based on facts, not just opinion. In any event, those long reports, that stuff is still available for the very small number of people who want to dig that deep. But it's not the way we're trying to communicate. Gotcha. Well, let's talk about the fortnight that just came out. And what I recall was that you reported that year to date, and this is with Golf Data Tech, that rounds of golf, which is one indicator of activity in this industry. Obviously, we're going to talk about, I would say, the importance of certain indicators over others, but rounds, played is down 5.7% year to date through the end of June over 2021, even though June was up a couple points, but overall through the year we're down over 2021. And I think you used the phrase, is the pandemic bloom off the rose here? And so, talk to us about your findings here, what you think about how that's playing out. Are we seeing the leveling off everybody's talking about, or was it weather? How much was weather and all? So give us a bit of a verbal update on what you see happening halfway through the year and maybe a little crystal balling for the rest of the year. Well, we're coming off of 2 incredible years, as I pointed out in the fortnight. Up 14% and then up another 6%. Unprecedented since we've been tracking this since the early 80s. We've never seen anything like those 2 years. And there is this tendency to have a regression to the mean. So I think we're going to go up and then come down a little bit. It's like the stock market, but I'm hoping we found a new floor, that's higher. And I think we have. Despite the fact that, some of the pandemic benefits of, work from home, kids not having, sports, to participate in. So, people had more time to play a little golf in the afternoon. Some of those things, I think we've probably absorbed most of those impacts by now. And yet we're still running 10% above the 10-year average. So I'm pretty bullish that we found a kind of a new level, so long as we hang on to it. Right. And so long as we do the things that Don's saying, which is giving people a reason to come back. And it's all about retention and engagement. I'm going to connect Don to this real quick, because I mentioned earlier that, with Don doing Top Tracer and through our discussions over the years, I know he's a progressive operator. And so I say Don's on the progressive side of the bell curve. And I know the rounds played report and other kind of research in our industry, is voluntarily, people put in their numbers and so forth. Do you have any sense, though, that the people that are participating in the rounds played report care about these things and therefore might be more successful than the average golf course. So do you think the rounds played report and other research that we do is more reflective of the successful side of the bell curve in our industry? Or do you think it's really a reflection of the entire bell curve of the industry?
I think there's some truth to what you're saying. I think that people who are more conscientious and want to participate and give back to the industry, volunteer their data. I don't think anybody is fudging their numbers. There's no benefit to it. But I do think that there's probably a tendency for it to favor better operators a little bit. So therefore, it might have a slight positive bias. But the anecdotal evidence that we have is that people are still really full on their tee sheets.
Yeah.
And they're not only full on their tee sheets, but they've been able to press their pricing a little bit and found some pricing power that's been absent for a long time. So certainly directionally, what we're seeing is fine. There may be a little bias. It's kind of just the way there's a little bias in all of our consumer research that's done on the internet now. Not everybody has a laptop. Not everybody has, high-speed internet access to take surveys. So it's going to be a little bit biased. But so long as you do this consistently over time, you're measuring the trend. Whether the absolute number is correct, maybe it's not as important as the trend. And are the weakest courses still going to close? Yes. And of course, our data is showing that. We'll continue to see people who can make more money by selling the land than by operating a golf course on top of it.
Yeah, one of my favorite phrases that you came up with was that the dirt is worth more than the grass or the turf.
Right.
That's a great phrase. I checked in with our friend Mike Laustelot at Golf Sagacity. They have a part of PGA of America. Just say, hey, what are your stats showing? 6 months into the year, and they're showing rounds are up about 3%, or so is what they're showing. So corroborate. There's always a margin of error in this stuff. So corroborating that sounds similar. He's saying that revenue is up, and they have over 500 courses giving data. Do you do any look into revenue at the NGF and with Golf Data Tech? And are you seeing anything that can corroborate revenue and price increases and revenue increases on top of round increases?
No, it's not reflected in those numbers, although it's reflected in our conversations with many operators and third-party providers that would be able to say and tell us that that the revenues are up, just like they are in most parts of the business, including the OEM manufacturers. Their revenues are significantly up, even though units are not so significantly up. So I trust Mike's data. Mike does a great job, and in those markets, I'm sure he's correct.
Yeah. Don, how do you feel about, the research that comes out, and it's saying this is what the industry is doing? How do you square that maybe with courses that just don't ever give data, that don't participate in these things, and to try to get because it's the trending. I think you're right, Joe, that the trending is really the important stuff here, but there are entities that want to know the real numbers, whether they're financial institutions or potential buyers,
Media.
The media. So Don, from your perspective, how do you square all this?
Well, data's got to be good, and you want to be able to trust it. When I was in Scottsdale and I ran the golf club at Eagle Mountain, we had kind of with Weekapaw and Sunridge Canyon, there was a few facilities that we all shared data. And I know those guys weren't saying the right rounds, right? I'm like, there's no way. So there's a little pride, there's a little ego sometimes in that. We'll add this to it because the comp rounds, we're going to put those in there too, whatever they're doing. But, at the end of the day, I think someone who goes to the doctor once a year, gets their blood work done, and wants to know what's going on with their body, will have a better chance of getting fit and going, wow, I am overweight, or I got a sugar, I'm pre-diabetic. You don't know if you're pre-diabetic until you go get a test that tells you, hey, did you know? And so I do think that those who get into the numbers are healthier. If you get into Joe's numbers, they're healthier. If you get into, what Copenhagen's doing with Pellucid and it's the guy, I would take them all, because at the end of the day, to me, it's like someone picking on a stock, right? Whatever. It's whether it's picking a horse to win a race or a stock that's going to make you a lot of money. Everybody's got a way to figure it out. I want to know exactly what Dr. Joe's saying. I want to know what the NGF's saying. I want to hear it all. And then I'm going to look at those numbers and go, okay, now where's the trend going so I can take advantage of that? To me, Top Tracer is not really about all the money I'm going to make on Top Tracer, which I hope we do well. I believe rounds will go down. And rounds are the most profitable thing I do at a golf course, right? So if rounds are going to go down even 3% off 50,000 rounds, that's 1,500 rounds I'm going to lose That's a lot of money at 30, 40 bucks a round. How do I hedge that? I believe you hedge that by becoming your own funnel. So I absolutely agree that you want to get in, you got to provide the numbers so that you can get the numbers. And you won't be one of these courses that's on a sugar high right now that's going to crash. They've been drinking Red Bull and they're all so happy. They're on a Red Bull. Dude, they're going to crash, and then I'm going to run over them while I'm driving in my top tracer car and knowing that I've got 55,000 people now who love Augusta Ranch because I'm a family.
We found the soundbite on social media. Hopefully everybody's paying attention. We're going to put that out there. All right, speaking of top tracer, Joe, I'm going to surface a comment here from Nip It Golf on YouTube. Sorry, it's right here. How do you see standalone indoor golf centers growing over the next few years? Not necessarily just the outdoor stuff, but indoor centers using systems such as True Golf and others. You've been measuring off-course participation now for a number of years as part of this aggregate golf participation figure. And so, what do you see happening with the indoor side? But I also want your thoughts on the outdoor stuff too. I want both, because we've been encouraging golf course owners and operators to harness this yourself. If you don't harness it, some entrepreneur down the street's going to do it, at the old, some plot of land or some old retail center they're going to breathe life into and create their own simulator business. I've been saying golf course owners should be doing that to cross-pollinate with your main business here. Are you seeing trends move in the direction of golf courses taking control of this? Entrepreneurs, indoor, outdoor. Talk to us about what you're seeing in this space, because I know you've been watching this for a number of years.
I don't think we see so many golf courses, although some of the higher end private clubs, indoor resorts, we see adopting, indoor, for their members and their resort guests. But there's absolutely a significant growth trend in off-course installations. I think we'll probably see more growth there than we will in outdoor. More units, more doors, will be opened. There's so many companies right now that are producing it in Chicago, in New York, in the Southeast. So more and more, we don't track it as like we track golf courses. We are fanatical about our golf course tracking, but we've begun, and we probably have 600 or 700, indoor doors, facilities now identified. And we're going to be moving towards a more precise tracking of the indoor, the indoor facilities, as well as the putting facilities, like Pop Stroke, whose offices are a half a mile away from me. Greg Bartoli and Ken Kennerly doing that business, and they're growing like crazy this year. Over the next 3 to 5 years, the number of facilities that they're planning, and others, the puttery, the indoor stuff is going. We're plotting it on a map. I'm watching little lights just pop up all over the country. So it's certainly indoor is definitely a trend. I think the technology is going to improve. I think that it will get better and better when we start to see more and more augmented reality and virtual reality being added to those experiences. We're going to focus on a bit of that this year at our symposium to talk about. Okay, we talked about golf evolving from on-course to off-course. Well, guess what? Off-course is about to be displaced a bit as it evolves into what's next beyond off-course.
I was going to ask you, you've seen so much history in this game, in this industry. Are you fearful of this over-exuberance that we already see, using golf, indoor golf centers, outdoor, all of this stuff? I would have a healthy fear of too much too fast. Who's going to fail? Are we oversaturated too quickly? Or is it, the market will take care of itself there and don't worry about it?
Well, I'm not particularly worried. Not all those businesses are going to make it. The people who do the right homework and the right due diligence will have much better odds, of making it. We've seen hundreds of businesses come and go. It's Darwinian. And the best and the strongest will survive. I think adding more options to participate in golf is a fantastic thing. We're going to show research very soon that will show you that the conversion that off course is totally supplemental and helping the on course and interest in on course, and is a ripe fruit tree, waiting to be harvested.
Super.
It's absolutely incremental. Don, you want to add something there? Or?
Well, I just wanted to, do a little shout out for that Pulse report. When Mike Glass was on here, they were talking about, yeah, you can't be afraid of these non-golf or these off-course things. I mean, bring them to the on-course. I mean, if you're an indoor simulator, you bring it to the golf course, great. But the Pulse report clearly shows that, bring a restaurant. It can't just be a snack bar anymore. And I know none of us make any money on restaurants. Believe me, been there, done that. But I can tell you right now at Augusta Ranch, we're doing $1.4 million in my little teeny restaurant. Now, is the profit where I want it to be? Of course not. It never is. Restaurants are tough. But am I attracting 100% of the people who like to eat? And then do I have something that's not full golf? It's half golf. It might even be quarter golf because it's a putting simulator. I don't care what it is. That's where you want to be. And that I think that's what we can't be afraid of. When on the top tracer, Jay, I've talked to a bunch of people and they're like, yeah, I can't wait all the lessons I can do in there and all the teaching we're going to do. And it's not a launch monitor, but it's kind of cool. You can see that. Anybody who says that does not understand Top Tracer. This has nothing to do with that. That's going to happen regardless. This is about families coming together. If it's just a bunch of people banging balls out there, Top Tracer is going to lose me money. I'm trying to convert those who don't believe into believing that golf will save their families. So don't do that either. Understand that would never take. Joe, I can't wait to see the official numbers on that support it, because I believe you're right. That's going to say, don't be afraid of these off-course things. Bring them on course, but convert them into full walk in the grass with your family with your shoes off. That would be cool.
What I love about this trend more than anything is that it's really the thing to do on Friday night. If you look at what American families have been doing for, or couples and so forth, in the 70s and 80s, people went to dance clubs, I guess, right? And then they went to, bowling alleys, which have dried up in most markets. Then movies was the thing. Go to the movie theater on Friday and Saturday nights or whatever. And even that has, major competition from all the streaming services because you can get it at your fingertips. Why go to the theater? They're fighting hard to be relevant, but there are fewer movie theaters in most markets these days. And, what do? It's, that the Top Golf, the Top Tracer, the PopStart, all of these things have become and are becoming the answer for couples and families and all that. And that is golden for our industry. That is absolute golden. So I'm bullish on it too, Joe, and I know Don is as well. There will be a point where some markets get oversaturated, but I'd rather have, selfishly, some oversaturation and clawback and all of that still exist and be healthy for our industry than not have it at all, right? So we're in a very, very fortunate position. But I'm going to change directions on you, Joe. We always weave around on topics here on the Golf Business Live. And, if you read the headlines, any, Wall Street Journal, any newspaper, any media, what have you, is saying that a recession is coming, recession's coming, recession's coming. Okay. So, the golf industry has seen not just the American recessions of the past, but I call an industry recession for nearly, 15 or more years ourselves, right? So if we have this foresight, let's pretend that we know the recession's coming. Let's say 6 months from now, 12 months from now, whatever, that all of a sudden, that disposable income starts drying up, all of these things that happen during a recession. We have the benefit of foresight. What is your advice to the industry, the commercial side of the industry, if we know it's coming, right? We have the benefit of that foresight. What is your advice to golf course operators or even the manufacturers out there that you talk to? What signal are we going to put out there that they should be doing right now to prepare for that?
I think it's really simple. Strengthen the customer experience. People, even in recessions, are going to recreate. They're going to make a choice on where to spend maybe a reduced amount of time and money, but they're going to spend some time and money. Most of our customer base is, because most of our customer base is above average income. The question is, do we maintain or grow our share of those recreational dollars and time during tough economic times? That's really in value. People will prioritize what they love and what they have fun at doing. They will prioritize it. And so, are you going to be a priority at your golf course, or are you going to be, collateral damage to the recession? I would be doing everything in my power to open the funnel, like Don says, to get more people in. Even if my course is crowded, I've got to figure out a way to get some of those people from off course to my on course. We know they're interested, twice as interested as the general population. So how do we convert that interest into trial, on course trial, And then how do we just make it a better experience for the golfer? That's really all you can do as a business. And yes, a recession's coming. And a wise economist once told me when I asked him the question, are we headed for a recession? He goes, we're not in one, are we? He said, then we're headed for one. This is a cyclical economy. If we're not in one, we're headed for one. I just can't tell you when. But, I think sooner rather than later, we've had 2 quarters of negative GDP now in a row. It hasn't been, the Bureau of Economic Research hasn't told us yet that it's a quote official recession, but that's usually defined by 2 quarters of negative growth. And we're starting to see the markets build in a recession. So today they announced that over 538,000 jobs were added last month. This was almost double, way more than what all the analysts expected. What did the stock market do? Went down. Why? Because they say, inflation's going to stay. The Fed is going to do another 3/4 point, raise of the interest rate, the base rate, Fed rate. This is all leading us towards, close to an inversion in the yield curve. The yields went way up again today, 10 basis points. So yes, it's coming, and all you have to do is protect your customer base and improve the experience.
Oh, that's
all you can do.
Good advice. Don, I'm going to quiz you on this. Okay, recession's coming. What lever do you not pull first?
Well, my rounds are down, so I'm going to increase pricing as much as I possibly can. Let's just drive people away because gas is $5 a gallon. But no, I love what you're saying. When we're not investing in people, everybody got all this extra money at their golf courses and just diving into capital improvements. And granted, I'm doing Top Tracer, but I just think because Top Tracer is something different. Experiences, Joe, to your point, they're not events and things. They're people and names. Right. And I just think of, if you're not intentionally hiring people that don't look like you so that you can get clients that don't look like you, then you're making a big mistake. If you're not creating a team culture and having events, one of the things we're going to do with Top Tracer is to have staff events and have fun. And we're doing employee match play right now because it brings food and beverage and golf and agronomy together. If you're not doing those things, happy people don't create happy people. Unhappy people don't create happy people. Happy
right.
people create happy experiences. And yet we're redoing our greens and bunkers right now. Come on, man. Invest in your people. You might have to pay them more. You might have to offer more to get them. But let them understand it's a family thing, because then they'll treat your customers like family. And to your point, that's what's going to get us through this.
Absolutely, man. Go park in the parking lot at the Chick-fil-A and grab some of those kids over there. Put them behind the desk. They'll be great.
The kids at Dutch Bros. My daughter's got me going to Dutch Bros all the time. I don't know if they have them where you're at, but in Arizona, they're a big deal. These kids are the happiest kids ever. I'm like, what's going on? Because they feel like they're part of a team. Who knew? Right. That's what we got to do.
Well, for the audience, if you missed the question, the lever that I'm encouraging people not to pull, and I'm not saying we're not price fixing here. What I'm saying is be careful when pulling the price lever as your first defense against a recession coming here, right? What we've learned through dynamic pricing is that there will be affordable rates during the week at some point in any market in the United States. So that'll take care of some of this, but protect your high demand rounds and the pricing there to get through the recession. The worst thing in the world would be for everybody in this country to start lowering the prices because they think that will increase or keep demand. What we've learned in golf is that lowering your price does not increase demand for our game, because as our panelists here know and the audience knows, is no matter what you charge me and most people, I only have a certain amount of time every week to play golf. If you lowered your price in half, I don't all of a sudden have twice the amount of hours to play golf that I did before. So thank you very much. I'm going to go play twice. So be careful out there. This is my signal and warning to the industry with a recession coming, is be careful on pulling that price lever as your first defense. Now, also as part of the golf economy, Joe, you guys keep track of course closures. And what we've seen in some of your research coming out is that the rate of course closures, which has outpaced course openings for years now, and to a factor of it was like 10 or 15 to 1 for a long time, is that pace is slowing down, which could be this indicator that the golf economy is better. But let's split this hair a little bit here, because the media would assume that golf course closures means failure. But we know that, yes, some businesses fail because they for all kinds of reasons. But we also know that we're a land-based business, 150, 200 acres of land. If zoned correctly, the land could be incredibly valuable to home builders and commercial developers and so forth. So as you guys have looked at this course closures, what would be your educated guess on what percentage of course closures is more about the value is so strong in the land versus this operator simply failed at running a golf course? What would you say is the ratio?
Well, of the 45 or so courses that have closed so far this year through June, I haven't gotten July numbers. We don't usually, we're doing the verifications every day, but we stopped and said, what's happened up to the first half of the year? 40% of the courses that closed so far this year were already earmarked for redevelopment. So to me, that's a big signal that they already figured out that they were going to use the land for something else, commercial or residential. Many of the others were still in the process, of closing or being sold, and we don't know what they ended up, as. But my guess would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60%. It's a pure redevelopment. It's an exit strategy. God bless Grandma and Grandpa for starting this golf course, outside of Cleveland, 50 years ago. Who would have thought that it would be now in the heart of Cleveland? And, and here's what it's worth. So, I mean, that's a business success to me, not a failure. Now, the courses that continue to close, 93% of those closures so far this year were daily fee. Half of them, was just disproportionate. Half of them were 9-hole, disproportionate. 75% were under $40. Again, disproportionate. So we're weeding out and this is just because better facilities got built in most of those markets. And it's just the law of the jungle, really. I mean, some of them really couldn't make enough money to make that go or compete effectively anymore. And they may just sit on that land for a little while. They're not making any more of it. They're not going to lose the land. And the land ultimately will be worth more money.
Well, if most of these closures, or a disproportionate amount, are the more affordable places to play, what is the answer then to maintain affordability and accessibility for playing golf in America?
Well, there is still plenty of opportunity along the price spectrum, for affordability. And we did a fortnight on this not too long ago, relative to what it costs to play golf versus attend other sports, games, et cetera, what it costs. And it's still there's plenty of affordability. Golf does not have, I state this with certainty, golf does not have an affordability problem. Not at all. Golf has a conversion problem. We undertook research last year that's yet to be published broadly. And we find that 27% of people who tried golf for the first time ever, there were 3 million of them last year, by the way, 3.2 million. 27% had a lesson, had a professional lesson. 22% or 27% made it. They're still, in it. I'm sorry, I got mixed up there for a second. Let me back up for a minute. So we wanted to know what brings people to golf. How do they enter? What do they experience when they get here, and what happens afterwards? So we talked to 1,000 people who took up golf for the very first time in the last 5 years, with a good mix, half and half, of those who are still playing and those who tried it and left. And what we found is 27% made it out of totally. That's how many people make it through. Right? But of all the people who try golf, only 22%, 1 out of 5, have a professional lesson. Another 1 out of 5 take a lesson from a friend. Now that's a good idea, isn't it? That's a great idea.
It is if your friend's Don Rea.
Yeah, if your friend's Don Rea, you're good. But how many?
Oh, yeah.
Right. 3 out of 5 didn't have a single lesson. It was strictly, looking at the internet or do it yourself. 3 out of 5. It's amazing. So we think that there are many things. We studied the underpinnings of success. in terms of what could happen when you're being introduced. By the way, less than 5% of facilities have any kind of an introductory program for adults. Less than 5%. We call them. We secret shop golf courses on the phone, on the internet, and we send people into their parking lots to park and then wander around and look lost and see what would happen, to understand what the beginners are going, what these very stark beginners are going through. And it's just amazing the opportunity that we have to do some of the right things that would increment. It's an educational problem, by the way, both for golfers and for instructors. But if we could increment from 27% to just say 35%, we retain 1 out of 3. What's 7% of 3 million? That's 1 year. And it would be it would be cumulative, like compound interest.
Wow.
If we were to be able to increment retention by just 5 or 10 percentage points.
I mean, the faster we can get them to shot euphoria, the longer they're going to last in this game, right? And so we got to.
One of the things that, Ted Eleftherio runs this program for us, our Welcome to Golf program, and he preaches, don't put people on the putting green making 4-foot putts. This at the first, he wants them to first get comfortable with the facility. And then second, he wants them out on the driving range with a ball on a 2-inch tee with a 9-iron and a half swing to get that thing in the air. He doesn't care whether it goes 30 yards or 100 yards, to just get it airborne. And then he says, you got it.
Yep.
So in any case, most people, they try it. They take a couple of lessons. They try the $1 a minute or $2 a minute. That's what happens when they call a golf course. Hey, you got anything? We had them call up and pretend they were. We had secret shoppers call up pretending they were brand new beginners. Hey, you got anything for beginners? Yeah, call the pro. It's like $150 an hour. That's the answer. So anyway, I'll stop now. But
it's okay.
There is a way to grow our business, and it's not revolutionary. It is simple, but you've got to do the fundamentals correctly.
You're absolutely right. And we'll keep preaching all this. I do want to surface a comment from my friend Azucena at Latina Golfers Association. Love this lady. We were talking about the course closures and, the affordable public courses that are closing. But, she mentions that par 3 courses are the best developmental tools for golf. It just seems as though anecdotally, and I haven't studied this, Joe, but I'm sure you have, that course development, what we're seeing go crazy around the country, at least it feels like, is short courses, par 3, the cradles, and all of this that's just been blowing up. And what a learning ground, what an amazing learning ground for, for the traditional golfers like you and I, it's just fun. We do it because it's just fun, to play these different formats. But for new golfers, that's just more bite-sized and manageable. When someone's standing on a tee looking at 485 yards, they're like, oh, holy hell, I can't do this. It feels too much. But when you're looking at, so are you tracking the course openings? Are you seeing, what do you feel is the prospect of that segment of our industry, these shorter courses, whether it's 9 holes, 18 holes, 6 holes, whatever it is, whatever's happening out there?
I think the perception of growth in that segment is way out ahead of the reality. So we're only tracking 10 or 15 openings a year. And yeah, maybe 4 or 5 of those are unusual, 6-hole, 9-hole, par 3 facilities. Where did you just mention? There's a new one at Bandon. There's a new one at Pebble Beach. There's a new one at Pinehurst. There's a new one at here. Listen to that. There's not a new one in Cincinnati.
Right.
Okay. There's probably already some par 3s in Cincinnati, by the way. There are short courses that continue to be available. And I absolutely believe that they should be more well utilized for those player development for new beginning golfers. But no, I do not see possible standalone 9-hole par 3 golf courses being viable. It's tough. In the right market, you can do it, or if you're embedding it, like PGA National just embedded one. They had 4 golf courses on their facility. They embedded one. Yes, it will probably work.
Adding it to existing facilities. Don?
Well, I just got to say this because I think a course that's struggling, a par 3 or a short course like me that's struggling, what ends up happening is they put the soured person behind the counter. And then they put all the cheap labor out there picking balls on the range and walking up and down the range. And it should be the exact opposite if you're doing it right. You know, at McDonald's right now, the point of sale systems in golf have gotten pretty good. And at McDonald's, you can have just a minimum wage kid who's this second job. They can ring people in. That's what we need to do is the golf professionals need to be out there walking up and down the range, driving around the golf course, building relationships, giving some swing tips. The cheap labor should be just ringing up people. And everybody who knows golf, the PGA professionals should be out walking around. And if they would flip their model, instead of trying to not go out of business by doing salary behind the counter and cheap labor picking the balls and do the exact opposite, I think they would build more loyalty. And then those people who begin the game at a facility, what I found at Augusta Ranch is that's their course. That's where I learned to play golf. And they tell everybody because of that relationship, that experience you talked about, Joe. But a 15-year-old kid who's making minimum wage doesn't care about building a relationship. He's just trying to spin the carts and make sure no one's watching him because he didn't wash them. He just blew them off. You know, we got to flip it. I don't mind if golf professionals are washing carts as long as they're also talking to people. I mean, I need them out there talking to people, not answering the phone. And by the way, everybody's going to the website anyways. It used to be you probably needed an expert on the phone to answer all the questions. But a lot of times they're kicking the tires on you. And if they show up in the parking lot and I see you walking around in circles out there, Joe, I'm going to come talk to you. But a 15-year-old's not. And I can't even train them to do that. And so I got to get golf professionals outside walking around the business.
Nobody approached our sacred shoppers when they left a message on the send us an email or whatever, put your question here. 1 out of 10 got a response. For those that did take lessons or went to a facility, 1 out of 10 had any follow-up contact with them to say, how you doing? Why don't you come back out? We got a beginners league that we're starting. Don, I couldn't agree more with you. I said this years ago. I said we should go back to the model, 400, 300 years ago when old Tom Morris, you were just over in St. Andrews. I'm sorry I didn't know you were there. Aunt Teresa and I were there for 2 weeks. But, he wasn't allowed in the clubhouse. Golf professionals weren't allowed in the clubhouse.
Get out.
Listen, if a pro walks the driving range, it's not too difficult to identify beginners. It's pretty obvious. And if you give them a tip or two, they're going to end up taking lessons from you anyway.
Absolutely.
So they should just be on that practice tee all the time, helping people at 100%.
Guys, we could talk about this industry forever. What we know is that we still live at the intersection of good things happening and so much more work to do. And that's a good thing, for us is to keep learning, to keep preaching what we all need to be doing. So Dr. Beditz, I do appreciate you coming on Golf Business Live. We're going to have you on again down the road as you produce more research, more things to talk about. As you know, you and I could talk shop for days. We love this industry so much, and we care about it so much as we know you do. So thank you for coming on the show, my friend. It was good seeing you. Don, good seeing you as always. And, look out for the next Golf Business Live. So thanks again, Joe.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Don. It was really good to be with you this afternoon. We'll talk again. I promise. Bye-bye. And get well. Full recovery, Jay.
Yeah, get well, Jay.
Thanks, guys. See you, everybody.